Imagine this. You're sitting in a meeting, your mind buzzing with ideas. You've analyzed the problem, crafted a solution so elegant it could be framed. You raise your hand, share your insight, and wait for the nods of approval, but instead, the room grows cold. Your boss shifts uncomfortably. Your colleagues exchange glances, their smiles tight and forced. Later, you're passed over for the project. Your idea, brilliant as it was, is quietly buried. Sound familiar? If you've ever felt the sting of being punished for being too smart, you're not alone. Now picture another scene. You're at a family gathering, the conversation veering into shaky territory, maybe politics or history. You know the facts, the nuances, the truth. You could correct the table, set the record straight. But the moment you open your mouth, you see it. The eyes narrowing, the jaws tightening. Suddenly, you're not the knowledgeable one, you're the know-it-all, the outsider. You leave feeling drained, isolated, wondering why your intelligence feels like a curse. This is the paradox of wisdom in a world that often rewards shallowness over substance, appearances over authenticity. In a society driven by ego, envy, and ignorance, being the smartest person in the room can feel like carrying a target on your back. Your brilliance, instead of lifting you up, becomes a weight that pulls you down. It's a tension that gnaws at your core, a quiet anger at the unfairness of it all. Why should you have to dim your light just to fit in? Why does the world seem to celebrate mediocrity while shunning genius? Enter Arthur Schopenhauer, the German philosopher whose piercing insights cut through the noise of human folly like a blade. Schopenhauer, a man of staggering intellect and unrelenting pessimism, understood this paradox better than most. He saw a world ruled not by reason but by vanity, where intelligence is less a gift than a liability. His solution? A strategy so radical, so counterintuitive, it might just change the way you navigate life. Play dumb. Not because you are dumb, but because in a stupid world, acting stupid can be the ultimate power move. In this episode of Echoes of Wisdom, we'll dive deep into Schopenhauer's philosophy to uncover the hidden strength of strategic humility. We'll explore why intelligence often alienates rather than elevates, how playing dumb can disarm threats and build silent influence, and what it means to wield underestimation as a weapon in social and professional life. This isn't about surrendering your intellect, it's about mastering the art of survival in a world that punishes the wise. Stay with us, because what sounds like weakness might just be the key to unlocking your true power. Let's start with a story. Picture Elena, a young software engineer fresh out of university. She's brilliant, top of her class, a coder who sees patterns where others see chaos. Her first job is at a tech startup, a place buzzing with ambition but riddled with egos. In her first team meeting, the group is stuck on a bug that's delaying a product launch. Elena, after hours of digging, spots the issue, a subtle flaw in the code base. She explains it clearly, her voice steady, expecting gratitude. Instead, her manager bristles. "We've been over this," he snaps, dismissing her. Her teammates avoid eye contact. Later, she overhears a colleague mutter, "She thinks she's so much better than us." Elena is stunned. She wasn't trying to show off, she was just doing her job. But over the next few weeks, the pattern repeats. Her suggestions are ignored, her emails unanswered. She's excluded from key projects, labeled as difficult behind closed doors. By the time she's let go 6 months later, she's questioning everything. Was her intelligence the problem? Did she unknowingly provoke them just by being herself? Elena's story isn't unique. It's a modern echo of a truth Schopenhauer articulated nearly 2 centuries ago. To show your intelligence is an indirect way of reproaching others for being dull. In other words, your brilliance, however well-intentioned, can feel like an insult to those who don't share it. When you shine too brightly, you cast shadows on others' egos, and they resent you for it. Schopenhauer, who lived from 1788 to 1860, saw this dynamic everywhere in academia, in society, even in his own life. Schopenhauer was no stranger to isolation. A philosopher of immense depth, he was often dismissed in his time, overshadowed by more charismatic figures like Hegel, whom he despised. His magnum opus, The World as Will and Representation, was ignored for decades while lesser thinkers basked in applause. His own mother, a novelist, once wrote him a blistering letter accusing his extreme intelligence of alienating everyone around him. "Nobody enjoys being corrected," she scolded, "most certainly not by such an insignificant little man as you." Those words cut deep, but they also shaped his worldview. Schopenhauer realized that intelligence, far from being a universal good, could be a social crime of standing above the crowd, one the crowd would not forgive. Why does this happen? Schopenhauer points to a fundamental flaw in human nature: vanity. People cling to their sense of self-worth like a lifeline, and nothing threatens it more than someone else's superiority. As he wrote, "Since there is nothing of which a man is prouder than of intellectual ability, seeing yours shine painfully reminds them of their own limitations. When you display your intellect, you unintentionally hold a mirror to others' insecurities. They imagine you're judging them, looking down from your lofty perch. Their pride stings, and they lash out not always openly, but in subtle, insidious ways. A cold shoulder here, a backhanded comment there, a quiet plot to undermine you. Think about it. Have you ever shared a clever idea only to be met with silence? Or corrected someone's mistake only to sense their resentment simmering beneath a polite nod? This is what Schopenhauer meant when he warned, "It is an exceedingly rash thing to let anyone see that you are decidedly superior intellectually, because he will then thirst for vengeance. The moment someone feels outshone, they become your rival, even if you didn't mean to compete." This dynamic isn't just personal, it's universal. History is littered with examples of brilliance punished. Socrates, the father of Western philosophy, was sentenced to death for his relentless questioning, his intellect deemed a threat to Athenian society. Galileo's astronomical discoveries earned him house arrest, his truths too unsettling for the powers of his time. Even in literature, the archetype of the wise fool persists. Characters like Shakespeare's Hamlet, who feigns madness to navigate a treacherous court, or the jester in medieval tales, who speaks truth under the guise of folly. These stories resonate because they reflect a timeless truth. In a world ruled by ego, wisdom must often wear a disguise. So, what's a person of intellect to do? Argue tirelessly, hoping to enlighten a world that doesn't want to be enlightened? Suffer in silence, isolated by your own gifts? Schopenhauer offers a different path, one that sounds absurd at first but reveals its genius upon closer inspection. Play dumb. Not because you lack intelligence, but because projecting simplicity can be a shield against the arrows of envy and resentment. In Schopenhauer's words, the only way to win affection from people is to show the most animal-like simplicity of demeanor. This isn't about becoming stupid, it's about acting as if you are, strategically lowering yourself to avoid the swing of others' egos. It's a performance, like an actor slipping into a role. By donning the mask of the fool, you disarm those who would otherwise see you as a threat. No one fears the jester, no one envies the simpleton. When you play dumb, people relax, their defenses drop, and suddenly you're no longer the target. Let's revisit Eleanor's story. After losing her job, she takes a new role at a different company. This time, she's cautious. When she spots a flaw in a project plan, she doesn't blurt it out in a meeting. Instead, she pulls her manager aside privately, framing her suggestion as a question. "I was wondering if we considered this approach. What do you think?" Her manager, flattered by the deference, nods thoughtfully and later presents the idea as his own. Elena doesn't care, she's just happy the project is back on track. Over time, her colleagues warm to her. They see her as approachable, not arrogant. She's invited to brainstorming sessions, trusted with bigger responsibilities. By playing dumb, Elena gains influence without triggering resentment. This is the power of Schopenhauer's strategy. As he observed, it is a real recommendation to be stupid in society. When others perceive you as less threatening, their vanity is soothed. They don't feel the need to compete or defend themselves. Schopenhauer wasn't advocating for self-debasement, but for pragmatism. In a world that punishes the tall poppy, the wise learn to blend into the field. This idea isn't new, it's woven into the fabric of human survival. In ancient China, the philosopher Lao Tzu advised, "The sage does not show off, and so is seen by all." The Chinese proverb, "play dumb to catch the wise," captures the same wisdom. By appearing unthreatening, you outmaneuver those who underestimate you. In medieval courts, the jester could critique the king without losing his head, his foolishness a shield for his wit. Even in modern politics, leaders often adopt a folksy demeanor to seem relatable, masking their cunning behind a veneer of simplicity. Schopenhauer's genius was to apply this tactic to everyday life. He saw that social survival often hinges on managing others' perceptions. By hiding your intellect, you allow insecure people to save face. You avoid the backlash that comes with outshining them. In practice, this might mean biting your tongue when you know you're right, or nodding along to a flawed argument if it's harmless. It might mean asking questions you already know the answers to, just to let someone else feel clever. This isn't weakness, it's strategy. You're trading a moment of ego for long-term influence. Why would being underestimated ever be a good thing? Because it gives you freedom. When people think you're not a threat, they lower their guard. They speak freely, reveal their plans, even confide in you. All the while, you're observing, learning, maneuvering in the shadows. Schopenhauer noted, being underestimated can sometimes work in your favor. When you're not seen as a rival, doors open that would stay closed to a braggart or a know-it-all. Let's tell another story. Meet James, a mid-level manager at a marketing firm. James's sharpest strategies consistently outperform his peers. But early in his career, he learned the hard way that brilliance doesn't always win. In his first job, he pitched a bold campaign that could have transformed the company's brand. His boss, threatened by James's confidence, shot it down, later stealing parts of the idea without credit. James was sidelined, his reputation tarnished as too ambitious. It was a bitter lesson. Years later, James is wiser. At his current firm, he's known as the guy who listens more than he talks. When a new project comes up, he doesn't rush to dominate the discussion. Instead, he asks thoughtful questions, letting his colleagues feel like the experts. Behind the scenes, he's analyzing data, refining strategies. When he finally shares an idea, he frames it as a group effort. "I think we're onto something here, what if we tried this?" His boss, who loves the spotlight, champions the plan. The project succeeds, and James quietly rises through the ranks. By playing dumb, he's become indispensable without making enemies. This is the martial art of social navigation. As Schopenhauer put it, people take the greatest pleasure in that which satisfies their vanity. When you let others feel smart or important, you give them a gift. Their egos are stroked, and they associate you with that warmth. Take that away by exposing their flaws, and you make a quiet enemy. Playing dumb is about emotional intelligence. It's knowing when to yield, not because you're wrong, but because peace and influence are worth more than pride. Consider the workplace dynamics James navigates. Studies in organizational psychology back Schopenhauer's insight. A 2018 study in the Journal of Applied Psychology found that employees who display high competence but low warmth, those who seem too smart without being like a Blair, often ostracized by their peers. Meanwhile, those who balance competence with humility build stronger alliances and advance faster. It's the tall poppy syndrome in action. Stand out too much and you get cut down. By staying low, you avoid the blade. This applies beyond the office. In social circles, the person who constantly corrects others or drops intellectual bombs risks being labeled pretentious. On social media, nuanced arguments are drowned out by catchy soundbites and memes. Schopenhauer saw this coming. The person who writes for fools is sure of a large audience. To connect with the masses, you often have to simplify, even if it feels like dumbing down. Successful communicators, politicians, influencers, even teachers know this. They use plain language, ask for input they don't need, or feign ignorance to build rapport. It's not cynicism, it's strategy. To understand why Schopenhauer championed this approach, let's look at his own life. Born in 1788 in Danzig, now Gdańsk, Poland, Schopenhauer was a child of privilege but not of affection. His father, a wealthy merchant, was distant. His mother, Johanna, a socialite who preferred parties to parenting. Young Arthur was precocious, mastering languages and philosophy by his teens. But his intellect came at a cost. His mother, exasperated by his argumentative nature, once wrote, Your extreme intelligence casts a dark cloud over your good characteristics. She urged him to stop criticizing others, warning that his know-it-all attitude would leave him friendless. This wasn't just maternal tough love, it was a prophecy. Schopenhauer's career was marked by rejection. At the University of Berlin, he scheduled his lectures at the same time as Hegel's, believing his ideas superior. Students flocked to Hegel, leaving Schopenhauer's classroom empty. His books sold poorly, his ideas dismissed as gloomy or eccentric. By his 30s, he was living alone in Frankfurt, his only companion, a poodle named Atmana, nod to his fascination with Indian philosophy. Schopenhauer's isolation wasn't just bad luck, it was the price of his uncompromising intellect. He refused to play the social game, to flatter or feign humility. In his essays, he railed against the blockheads and charlatans of his time, sparing no one. While this made for brilliant writing, it also made him a pariah. As he later reflected, mental superiority of any sort always tends to isolate its possessor. People run away from him out of pure hatred. Yet Schopenhauer wasn't entirely blind to strategy. In his later years, he began to soften his approach, at least in writing. His essays, like Parerga and Paralipomena, were more accessible, even humorous, earning him a small but devoted following. It was as if he'd learned, too late, that a touch of simplicity could bridge the gap between genius and audience. His advice to play dumb wasn't born of cynicism but of hard-won wisdom. He knew the world wouldn't change, so the wise must adapt. So, how do you apply Schopenhauer's philosophy in your own life? Playing dumb isn't about abandoning your values or dimming your intellect forever. It's about choosing when and how to reveal your strength, like a chess player holding back a powerful move until the perfect moment. Here are practical ways to wield this strategy, woven with stories to bring them to life. 1. Pick your battles wisely. Not every mistake needs correcting. Not every debate needs winning. Schopenhauer advised, sometimes being silent or seeming ignorant serves you better than dazzling everyone with facts. Save your intellectual firepower for moments that matter when the stakes are high, or when your input can make a real difference. Take Sarah, a high school history teacher. Her students often repeat myths they've heard online, like exaggerated claims about historical figures. Early in her career, Sarah would dive into detailed corrections, citing primary sources. The result? Blank stares and disengaged students. Now, she's strategic. If the misconception is minor, she lets it slide, focusing instead on sparking curiosity. When a student claims, Cleopatra was just a seductress, Sarah doesn't lecture. She asks, what makes you say that? Let's look at her political moves. By playing a bit dumb, she guides them to the truth without bruising their egos. Her classes are now lively, her students eager to learn. 2. Practice strategic humility. The next time you're tempted to dominate a conversation, pause. Ask yourself, what's the goal? If it's a casual chat, let someone else shine. Schopenhauer's insight is that people love feeling smarter than you. Give them that gift, and you build goodwill. Consider Mark, a freelance graphic designer. In client meetings, he used to showcase his expertise up front, detailing his process to prove his worth. Clients, overwhelmed, would micromanage or ghost him. Now, Mark starts meetings by asking, what's your vision for this project, even if he already has ideas. He nods along, occasionally saying, that's interesting, I hadn't thought of that. Clients feel heard, trusting him more. Behind the scenes, Mark delivers stunning designs, quietly proving his skill. By playing dumb, he wins contracts and loyalty. 3. Let others shine. Influence often comes from uplifting others, not outshining them. Schopenhauer quoted the Spanish thinker Baltasar Gracian, to be well liked, one must dress in the skin of the simplest of beasts. Share your knowledge in ways that make others feel smart, not small. Take Priya, a medical researcher. In team meetings, she used to present her findings with airtight logic, leaving little room for discussion. Her colleagues, feeling overshadowed, stopped collaborating. Now, Priya shares rough ideas, inviting input. I'm not sure if this makes sense, but what if we tried this? Her team jumps in, building on her framework. The result? Stronger research and a tighter team. Priya's brilliance still drives the work, she's just learned to cloak it in humility. 4. Use the element of surprise. By keeping your strengths hidden, you maintain an ace up your sleeve. When you finally step forward, your impact is amplified. Schopenhauer noted, being underestimated means your successes will seem to come out of nowhere. Look at Aisha, a junior lawyer at a competitive firm. Known for her quiet demeanor, she's often underestimated by senior partners. In a high-stakes case, her colleagues scramble, overlooking a key precedent. Aisha, who's been researching quietly, waits until the final meeting to speak. "I came across this case, might it help?" she asks, presenting a game-changing argument. The partners are stunned, her reputation soars. By staying under the radar, Aisha turned underestimation into her superpower. 5. Protect your peace. Above all, playing dumb is about preserving your sanity. Schopenhauer warned, people generally think too much about the opinions which others form of them, although this opinion is not in itself essential to happiness. Let go of the need to prove yourself at every turn. There's peace in saying, "I might be wrong," even when you're right. Consider David, a software developer who loves debating tech trends online. He used to spend hours crafting arguments, only to be met with trolling or silence. It drained him. Now he picks his battles, often responding with, "Good point, I'll think about that." He's not conceding, he's just refusing to waste energy on unwinnable fights. Offline, he channels his intellect into open source projects, where his work speaks for itself. By playing dumb online, David protects his mental health and focuses on what matters. Schopenhauer's advice feels tailor-made for today's world. In workplaces, the dynamics he described are rampant. A 2020 study by the Harvard Business Review found that high-performing employees who lack political skill, the ability to navigate egocere, often overlooked for promotions. The lesson? Brilliance alone isn't enough. You need tact. Never make your boss feel dumber than you. Present ideas as questions, let them take credit. It's frustrating, but it keeps you in the game. Social media amplifies this. Platforms reward simplicity and outrage over depth. A nuanced post might get 10 likes, a meme gets 10,000. Schopenhauer's quip, "The person who writes for fools is sure of a large audience," rings true. Influencers who simplify complex ideas or pretend to know less than they do build massive followings. They're playing dumb, and it works. Even in personal relationships, Schopenhauer's wisdom applies. A partner who feels intellectually inferior might withdraw or lash out. A sibling who senses your success might distance themselves. Playing dumb down, playing your achievements, asking for their advice can preserve harmony. It's not about lying, it's about prioritizing connection over ego. At its core, Schopenhauer's philosophy is a paradox. Strength becomes weakness, and weakness becomes strength. Open brilliance provokes resentment, but hidden brilliance moves mountains. Playing dumb is like being a chameleon in a jungle of egos. You blend in, observe, and strike when the time is right. It's a martial art of the mind, using others' assumptions against them. This isn't cynicism, it's empowerment. Playing dumb requires confidence in your own intellect. You don't need to prove it to everyone, because you know your worth. As Schopenhauer wrote, "The wise often walk alone, not by choice, but because the crowd flees from them. By choosing when to reveal your wisdom, you reclaim control." You're not a victim of the world's folly, you're its quiet master. As we close, reflect on your own life. Have you ever felt punished for your intelligence? Maybe you were sidelined at work, excluded by friends, or labeled a know-it-all. Did you dim your light to fit in? Schopenhauer invites you to see this not as defeat, but as strategy. Playing dumb isn't about selling out, it's about surviving and thriving in a world that often fears what it doesn't understand. Here's my challenge to you. In the week ahead, identify one moment where you'd normally assert your cleverness. Maybe it's a meeting where you know the answer, or a debate where you could dominate. Instead, hold back. Listen. Nod. Ask a simple question instead of giving a lecture. Watch what happens. You might find people relax, open up, even trust you more. You'll see the power of underestimation firsthand. Your intelligence hasn't diminished, it's just undercover, working for you rather than against you. In a world that often feels upside down, the wise know when to wear the fool's cap. Schopenhauer showed us that there's strength in silence, victory in restraint. Let his wisdom echo in you. Navigate the absurdities of life with a sly smile. Play dumb and outsmart them all. If this resonated with you, carry it forward. Subscribe to Echoes of Wisdom, share this video with someone who needs it, and join us next time as we uncover more timeless truths to navigate the chaos of life. Stay wise, stay cunning, and remember, sometimes the smartest thing you can do is act a little stupid. See you in the next one.